This is a revision video on the nitrogen cycle. So there are 3 questions to have a go at. Attempt to answer those questions, and then you can continue to play the video to check your answers. Okay, so let's work through the answers to these questions. So the first question is asking you to state why nitrogen is important to living organisms and give examples of molecules that contain nitrogen. So nitrogen is important because many biological molecules contain nitrogen, and examples include DNA, RNA, ATP. So for those, it's the nitrogen-containing organic base that contains the nitrogen. Also amino acids, so the amine group in amino acids, and NADP and NAD also actually contain nitrogen. Okay, let's move on to the answer to question 2. So for the second question, you need to describe the nitrogen cycle, and you need to be able to state the process, the reactants and the products of that process, and the organism that carries out the process. So because this is a cycle, you can start anywhere in the process, but normally we start with nitrogen gas. And so this first process is nitrogen fixation. It's the conversion of nitrogen gas to ammonia. And just to recognise that ammonia will eventually be converted into nitrogen-containing compounds by nitrogen-fixing bacteria. So they will use that ammonia to make their nitrogen-containing compounds and also supply that ammonia to plants to make their nitrogen-containing compounds. So the organism is nitrogen-fixing bacteria. They're carrying out nitrogen fixation to convert nitrogen gas to ammonia. The extra thing to know here is that these nitrogen-fixing bacteria can be mutualistic. They can be associated with the roots of plants. In that case, the bacteria and the plant both benefit from that association. So the plant get the ammonia to be able to make their nitrogen-containing compounds, and the bacteria get some of the carbohydrates from the plant that the plant has made by photosynthesis. There are also free-living nitrogen-fixing bacteria, so these are not associated with the roots, they're just present in the soil. Okay, so that's nitrogen fixation. Let's move on to the next part of the process. So that next process is ammonification. So there will be dead parts of plants, dead animals, waste, such as urine and feces, that will be released into the soil. That will release nitrogen-containing compounds into the soil. And so ammonification is the conversion of these compounds, these nitrogen-containing compounds, into ammonia and ammonium ions. That process is carried out by saprobionts or decomposers. You should remember that they are different species of bacteria and fungi. Okay, so the next process from there is nitrification, and that is conversion of these ammonia and ammonium ions into nitrites, which are then oxidized to nitrates. These nitrates are very important. They're water soluble and they are very important for growth of plants. So they will be absorbed by active transport by the roots of plants, and these nitrates can be limiting to plant growth, so they're absolutely essential to be present in the soil for plant growth. This process is carried out by nitrifying bacteria. So it's nitrifying bacteria carrying out nitrification, which is the conversion of ammonia or ammonium ions into nitrites and then oxidized into nitrates. Okay, and finally, if conditions are anaerobic, so there is a lack of oxygen in the soil, then you will get the promotion of this process, denitrification, which is a conversion of nitrates back into nitrogen gas. And this is carried out by denitrifying bacteria, which their growth will be promoted under anaerobic conditions, so where there's a lack of oxygen. And this is in contrast to nitrifying bacteria, which require oxygen. So nitrification will be promoted under conditions where there is a supply of oxygen, denitrification where there is a lack of oxygen. And this is the reason why farmers plough fields. It's to aerate the soil, to get oxygen into the soil, to ensure that there is growth of nitrifying bacteria, to ensure that there's a production of those nitrates for plants to absorb. So that is the nitrogen cycle. That is the essential knowledge that you need to know. Okay, let's move on to question 3. So mycorrhizae, why are they important for plant growth? Describe and explain. So what are mycorrhizae? This describes a mutualistic relationship between a fungus and the roots of plants. So mutualistic because both the plant and the fungus benefit. So we've got roots here, showing roots here, and then this sort of grey shaded area is showing the fungus and how it associates. And so what you notice is it spreads quite wide beyond the roots. And this is important because it increases the surface area for absorption of water and nutrients by the plant roots. And it can hold on to water as well, so it can prevent damage during drought, or keep the plant alive during drought to maintain this water supply. And in exchange, the plant supplies the fungus with carbohydrates that it's made by photosynthesis. So both the fungus and the plant benefit from this association. That's why it's described as mutualistic. Okay, so that is the nitrogen cycle and mycorrhizae. If you find you didn't understand some of this, or you were getting some of those answers wrong, then go back, repeat it, and attempt to get all questions right, and then you can move on to trying exam questions.